listening. I
I
know
know.
you love us. I know you want us to stay, us two unbought, unbossed ladies here on
Yeah.
WCPT.
Right. Right. And so with that, because we are talking about important stuff, and there's been a
Just
lot
had to
of
get that out of the way. Sorry.
yeah. So we have some amazing guests coming up. We got two women running for alderman in Chicago. We've got Jeanette Taylor in the 20th ward, and we've got Tara Stamps in the 37th ward. Really excited to host them on the show. But before that, let's talk about what happened this week.
We definitely, I think, should talk about the Van Dyke sentencing because that's something a lot of us have been waiting for, months.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think? I mean,
Well,
obviously, justice, I don't think, was served. Yes, he's the first police officer to serve any time for a murder for 50 years.
right.
So obviously, that's good. However, I don't think, less than 7 years and probably only serving 3 of that is justice.
Right. And there were a couple of comparisons made by a variety of folks, specifically regarding sentencing, the actual, the term. The fact that he was convicted was historic. The fact that he got the sentence he got, you had people, a really interesting mix of people, people talking about how the Pendleton's killer just recently got 84 years for her murder.
Centoya.
Santoya was sentenced, and she's now fortunately has been granted clemency, but again is still going to be incarcerated until August, as far as we know. The last time I looked at that update. Similarly, people were saying, there's so many people who are still incarcerated for drug offenses who got longer sentences. Patty Blagojevich chimed in.
No need to go there.
I know, but it was
Blagojevich.
but I'm saying it was interesting how the diversity of people are like, wait a second, this is absurdly short. And our good buddy Aaron Goldstein, who ran for Attorney General, 33rd Ward Committeeman, had an interesting point. I think we just have to remember this. He said today's sentence, meaning he posted this Friday, shows just how cynical the ruling yesterday was. And he was referring to the conspiracy theory, a conspiracy verdict. All anyone is talking about is Van Dyke because of the timing of the ruling that the judge delayed to yesterday. We've already forgotten about the cover-up. So that's the thing. There were 3 police officers who were being tried for covering up, evidence or information. And there was a woman we actually mentioned on air a few times, Dora Fontaine, who was, bravely came forward and said, no, this is like I was told to cover this up. I was told to be silent. And she's now, said she's a woman police officer that, now I'm facing situations where I know I can't be in the field because if I'm on a call and people aren't going to back me up, I'm saying all this to say there is a culture of injustice that there was a part of me that actually didn't expect a long sentence, but because I was sort of like cynical myself, I was like, I don't think that the criminal justice system, the judges who have been appointed, like who appointed all these judges? Mm-hmm. I believe this particular judge was appointed, and looking at who makes these decisions and who the prosecutors are and how all of this has been adjudicated at the end of the day.
Going back to Aaron Goldstein, he is my 33rd Ward Committeeman, and he does a lot of education on judges and how they're appointed and how they're elected. And a lot of judges just pay $40,000 to get that seat. And there's a lot of corruption and a lot of cronyism. And so
and to back up,
I agree that I didn't expect, that justice would be served, but was hopeful.
Right. And to be clear, that payment is what happens at the Cook County Democratic Party level, that you're slated, you're literally put on the ballot and an endorsed judicial candidate. And there's that essentially sort of quid pro quo, literally like you're paid to be the endorsed candidate. And so that's not only, it's sort of like that system has been set up for decades. And so to dismantle it, to change those outcomes, there's a lot of work to be done, and a lot more discussion and just making folks aware of it. Again, I think people were paying attention, and then you have so many things that, I heard, and I think you were listening to some of the testimony on Friday regarding the sentencing, just some of the stuff that was said by different people about, Jason Van Dyke. I heard his wife Tiffany speaking and saying, this has ruined his life and something to that effect. And, I'm afraid he's going to be killed in prison. I'm like,
she said he paid the ultimate price by losing his job.
I was like, Laquan McDonald paid the ultimate price.
Exactly,
He's dead. He's dead. And I can't help but think of the parallels to what's happening. You probably saw the video of the young men in D.C. confronting the Native American leader.
Yes, disgusting.
Yeah, and so these are kids, and people are saying, don't share their names, don't say who they are, or sort of talk about them. It's they're just kids. It's like the we are so willing to grant sort of the excuses of youth and innocence to especially white men that we will never grant to a young black man.
I just could not believe that video in Washington. I was just disgusted.
Yeah.
Like, this is what our country's come to? A disrespect for elders, a disrespect for other cultures, a disrespect for... He's a veteran. So now the Republicans, who are supposedly so pro-veteran, aren't even respectful towards veterans.
Right.
They were menacing him.
Yeah, well...
It was really...
Well, here's what I would say to that. What does our country come to? And I've been thinking about this. That face that everyone keeps saying, that that face of that kid is it's so familiar. It's so they've seen that face before. I've seen that face before. I've seen that face before my entire life. And frankly, when I was going to school and I was that age and younger, that face was female. So don't tell me that question, what does our country come to? It was always there. I've experienced it directly. I mean, my siblings, we all went to a school where we were the first people of color at that school. And the only sort of visibly non-Western in terms of our names and everything. So this has always been there. So it's like
correct. I didn't mean to say that, first of all. But what I am saying is that now it is acceptable to do that publicly in that way. That in a way it was more subverted before, but now it's just I don't.
And I know what you're saying. I think what's different is even when you look at Charlottesville, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, folks who were demonstrating that way would be wearing white hoods. Now they don't feel like they have to hide their faces.
Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah,
you're much more eloquent than me.
No, but I mean, Sean, I know you're on our side. So no, but so that is really frustrating and maddening and sad and scary. But it's sort of how are we going to move beyond it? And I kept trying to think of the wording, but I kept saying, there's a phrase I want to say, which is, none of the racists I know wear MAGA hats or are whatever part of the Klan. They're just people who aren't paying attention. They're not listening. They feel defensive as soon as they're sort of even associated with something or the implication. I mean, we had our show 2 weeks ago, white supremacy on the left. I mean, you're confronting it with, the issue with Amara's endorsement at the DSA. It's the same conversation over and over again. It's it's not just kids in MAGA hats. It's everywhere.
And I think the best thing to do is have those conversations, not just deny, deflect, invalidate, treat people who are bringing these issues up like they're out to destroy you, smear you, whatever. I think it's really important to have difficult conversations right now. One thing I wanted to mention about the sentencing, that if you can handle watching it, I would suggest, if you haven't watched it, to watch the footage from Friday, because I really think the stories of the men who had been pulled over by Van Dyke previously, targeted racially, abused mentally, physically, tormented, suffered psychological and physical abuse. I mean, that to me was just gut-wrenching.
Right. This is a pattern.
It was a pattern. This guy should not have even had a gun. They could have, kept their brother employed and put him on a desk somewhere. But this guy had this many complaints
Right.
And I believe all of those folks. I mean, the one man was crying the whole time. He was obviously shook, by even being in the room.
Yeah.
And to hear the defense attorney, try to discredit that, and it's very difficult to watch. So if you would be triggered by that, obviously don't, take care of yourself. But if you can, I definitely would suggest watching that, because I think it's a really great illustration of white supremacy in America, the relationship between, the black community and the police, and also listening to the part with the Van Dyke family, weeping and crying for their loss. I mean, it's just a very important snippet of what is the larger picture of what's happening in America.
Right. And if
you can handle it, watch it.
Yeah, and about 18 months ago, actually, I sat on a jury at 26th in California, and it was not a murder trial. It wasn't a murder case, but or a capital case, as they say in the biz. But it was still a case of where there was a black defendant, and there were Cook County State's attorneys, the staff, the prosecutors were both white women. And so just seeing that up close and seeing who was representing the defendant, he didn't have good counsel. I mean, seeing that up close too was really something that I know everybody wants to ignore those jury duties, those jury summons, but we need witnesses, people to actually see how does our court system function? How does it treat defendants of color? How does policing how does it really show up when it comes to making decisions about lives of not just an individual, but a community? There's a really great activist, and I'm gonna blank on her name, but it might be Moni Cosby. She's with Moms United against violence and incarceration. Said something like, when you incarcerate the mother, or you incarcerate a family, it's like there are people who have entire communities and families who are affected by this. And the fact that the sentencing sort of centered Van Dyke that really upset me. I was crying. I couldn't believe how much he was sort of forgotten in all of this.
Yeah, I'm sorry we're going to have to cut this discussion short, because it is so important, especially what's going with us here in Chicago. On the last note I want to make before we have to take a break, and then we're bringing out Tara Stamps and Jeanette Taylor, two aldermanic candidates. I just wanted to mention that one thing I was disgusted with in the New York Times was that Mr. Van Dyke's lawyer said after the verdict, or after the sentencing, that he felt that Van Dyke felt great, truly felt great. He was not just relieved, he was happy.
Ugh.
So if that is an indication of justice not being served,
right,
that's a good quote.
Yeah, there it is in writing.
There it is.
There you go.
All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes with Tara Stamps and Jeanette Taylor. You're listening to the Left with Samina and Shauna.
I'm Samina Mustafa.
I'm Shauna East.
We're producing a show on WCPT Sundays at 1 o'clock.
What should we call it?
How about Smash the Patriarchy?
I like it, but that's a lot of pressure. What about left-leaning ladies?
What about womansplaining?
Yeah, but what about when we have guys on? What about Madigan's Worst Nightmare?
It gets enough attention.
I got it. To the left.
I like that. That could work.
Tune in to the Left with Samina and Shauna on WCPT 820, Sundays at 1.
And we're back.
Yes, we are.
You are listening To the Left with Samina and Shauna. I am Shauna East.
And I'm Samina Mustafa, and we are excited to be joined now by Jeanette Taylor and Tara Stamps. Jeanette Taylor is running in the 20th Ward. Tara Stamps is running in the 37th Ward. First, we're going to start with a little bit of, kind of getting to know you, a few minutes. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeanette, and which ward you're running. Describe it a little bit so folks have a sense of the neighborhoods, and tell us why you're running. And also, just for folks who are listening, if you want to ask questions of Jeanette and Tara, you can do them in under the live Facebook feed. We'll look at those comments at the break.
So I am a mother of 5. I am a wife. I am a nana. I got a banana. And I'm running for the 20th Ward automatic seat. It is a empty seat because the incumbent, of course, is being indicted. The last 3 aldermen of the
Willie Cochran, right?
Yeah, Willie Cochran. The last 3 aldermen of the 20th Ward have been indicted. So
wow.
Don't look good in orange. I'm not going to jail, so don't even ask. The 20th Ward is made up of Woodlawn, Washington Park, parts of Inglewood, New City, and Back of the Yards. And so it's a Latino and Black community, which is now going to be home of the Obama Presidential Center. And so one of the main reasons why I'm running for office is because I'm tired of elected officials who ignored its constituents, the people they're supposed to represent. And so I'm required to pay taxes, but I don't have a say-so on how my tax dollars are spent. I'm tired of elected officials who you only see during election season. And so if we're smart about this, an alderman is nothing but a community organizer with money. And so we're supposed to organize around what the people in our community want to see. And so it's why I am fighting for that seat.
Great. And now we're going to switch over to Tara Stamps.
Well, hello. I like that comment. It's just a community organizer with a salary. That's so accurate. Okay, so I'm Tara Stamps. I'm a believer. I'm a teacher. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a fighter. Let's see, the 37th Ward. So a little bit, I ran before, kind of on the heels of all of the actions that took place with Chicago schools, and became very, very active, still very active with the Chicago Teachers Union. And during that time of school closings, I led a lot of the rallies, and I would say stuff like, if you don't support us now, we're going to take those seats. And at the time, it was just sounding like something that was really sexy to say, and to strike a little fear in hopes that they would kind of find their souls and get on the side of right. Many of them did not, because they're soulless people. But I think that idea kind of resonated and took some root. So that following that in that election cycle, there were several teachers that ran. So it was myself, it was Sue Garza, it was Tim Megan, and Diane Delighten. Tim Megan got really close, but he lost to Deb Mell.
He didn't make the runoff.
He didn't make the runoff. He was like really, really close, but didn't make the runoff. And then he kind of said, you know what, I'm going to take my little red wagon and take it down the road and relocate it. And from what I understand, it's doing quite well. Diane Delighten didn't make it, but she's in the race again. I forced a runoff. And at the time, I guess Emma was like a 15-year incumbent at that time. And then, of course, our very own Sue Garza is now a sitting alderman. And so I think that, we are just in this space where we've kind of politicized the Chicago Teachers Union and what we are able to do in communities by connecting the dots and, just showing people that this is all interrelated. Like, there are no individual fights. The school fight is the housing fight, is the unemployment fight, is the violence fight, and it is our responsibility to connect those dots. Also, I just had a great lineage. My mother was the late Marion Stamps, and, had a history of fight. And I think I just kind of picked up and walked in a path that had already been paved for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Since we brought it up, and we're going to talk about it some more. We talked about the Van Dyke case, and obviously policing was a huge part of that case and the problems with policing. And I know that Tara, you've been involved and have been supported by the folks who started No Cop Academy. So I wanted for you to kind of chime in on that movement. And
just to clarify, they can't support any candidates, but they did give her a shout out at the Houdoisie last night, and the crowd cheered.
Thank you, beloved, for giving me a shout out. Like, get up with me so we can really get busy, right? Yeah. But no, it's really just I believe in young people, period. I just believe in their passion and their power and their righteousness. And I know that anything that's going to happen in terms of a right direction, writing the direction in our communities, cities in this country is going to come because of young people. That's right. Like, it's not going to be no middle-aged folks worried about their mortgage that's going to really, invest and fight in a way that's necessary to bring about change. But it just so happened that all of our kind of paths just kind of collided, and it wasn't anything that was orchestrated. But I think, you travel around these circles enough, you start running into the people who swim in your pool. And it's just it's my honor that those young people and I were able to kind of hook up in a way, and that I was so impressed and honored by them, and they trusted my vision and trusted my leadership and said, we want to, we down for you. But I'm truly learning from them. It's not the other way around. They are showing me because their organizing efforts and the report that they released, and I said this even at the lead dinner that the Chicago Teacher Union sponsors every year with a lot of politicos. Stop saying what young people need to do. They know what they're doing. We need to hitch our wagon to them and let them allow them the space and the capacity for them to do what they're doing, and give them the financial support and the structure that they need to move. But yeah, the Academy is trying to go up in the 37th Ward. We've been kicking butt on that and bringing a lot of visibility. 72% of the people in the ward, when polled, do not want that academy. They want that $95 million to go for things it should go to, which are schools and infrastructure and programming and job training and job sustainability, things that make sense, and looking at root causes so that we can curb and end this wave of violence in our community. And they've been very responsive to that, and that's just the same message. So it really goes hand in hand in terms of the grassroots organizing work we've been involved in, or I've been involved in, really since my life. But for you all, the last 8 years. But like I said, my mother was the late Marion Stamp. So everything I know in my life is about struggle and organizing and making sure that poor and oppressed people have their seat at the table and a right to stay on the land and have a decent quality of life.
Yeah. And I know, Jeanette, I want to kind of pivot over to you and talk about your work related to schools as well. I mean, specifically about the diet strike, if you could talk about that and give some folks some background and how you got involved.
So I was on the local school council for 21 years. I was a teen mother, so I had my first baby when I was 15. By the time I was 19, I had 3 children, and not being involved in their education was not a choice. My mother was like, I was a PTA mom. I was one of the first people on the LSC. It's your responsibility. And so at first, I didn't take that serious because I just assumed, like everybody else, the principal is the person with the degree. She knows everything. But what I started to see happen in my community was it was changing, and it was not changing for low-income and working families. And so I saw Black business owners leaving. They knocked down the housing projects, and so a lot of our folks that used to come to Mollison were now gone. And so for me, it was a thing of they're closing schools, but they're building homes. And so who are you building them for? Mm-hmm. And so it's like a bunch of the signs say they're building a new Chicago. It's just not for working families. Mm-hmm. And so stopping them from closing Mollison twice was kind of my eye-opener, and them really being educated about what local school councils were supposed to do. And so then you come up with the closing of 50 schools, which was heartbreaking. And one of the schools, which was Diet High School and Price Elementary, were on that list. And so while Price was surrounded by other elementary schools, Diet was the last open enrollment high school in our community. And so for me, it was like, this is unbelievable. And like a city where I pay taxes, in a city where I'm required to do my due diligence. I'm not a parent that doesn't participate. I'm a mother who is a part of the process. And so I was rendered voiceless. And so us going on a hunger strike was like the final result. We had went to jail. We blocked the elevators at City Hall. We had talked to elected officials who looked like us but weren't for us, who would not support us. We'd had a lot of pastors, people don't talk about it, who did not support us. And so the hunger strike was the final draw. And so it lasted for 34 days. I was on it for 30 days, but on the 10th day, I passed out at a CPS board meeting. Sue Garza, who I love, gave me her spot. And after speaking to a bunch of appointed folks who don't care about black and brown children, I passed out, and I had to make a decision. Was I going to continue to fight for young people who we say are lost, or was I going to fight on and make sure that I was one of the people who were going to stand up for young folks? Because this generation is not lost. It's been neglected. We ain't done our jobs. And so the hunger strike was just common sense for me, and I got off after 30 days because I became a nana. And so I wanted to live to fight for her, because the powers that be would have let us die on a hunger strike.
Wow.
We were passing out. We were going crazy. You know, when you're starving your body, you don't realize it, and you can see clearly. And so watching city trucks watch us and take pictures, people sent to the hunger strike to fight with us, people barbecuing at the other end of the park so we could smell it, knowing we were hungry. And so that's the type of evil city we live in. And so if I pay taxes, I got a right to say how those taxes are spent. And so we know that anytime investment comes to black and brown communities, working families are the first to go. And so, yeah, I'm excited about us having the Obama Presidential Center, but I'm not excited about being displaced from the city and the community that I love.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, Jeanette, last night you were speaking to this a little bit. Can you talk about your how you're involved in fighting gentrification from the University of Chicago in your ward, and how the Obama Center and everything, how that relates to what you're doing there?
So we're fighting for a CBA ordinance, and it just does not.
So for folks who don't know, that's a community benefits agreement.
Yeah, it's a community benefits agreement that says you're using our space and it's coming to our community and using our tax dollars. We should have a say-so of what happens, and so making sure the people in the community are on those jobs. So we're not saying we don't want the Obama Presidential Center. So let's make that clear. What we're saying is, if you would have put it in Hyde Park, if you'd have put it in Lincoln Park, you'd have made sure the people in those community benefit from us. And so don't treat us any different because we're not making $150,000. We pay taxes. We're taxed at a higher rate in our communities. And so let's have a say-so over what happens. And so in that agreement, we're asking that any new housing be built, 30% goes to affordable housing. And so now, you know, we say build affordable housing. There's an opt-out. So the landlords can pay a fine and not make those houses affordable, or they'll build studio and one-bedroom apartments to push out families. And so we're saying put money in a community trust that allows us to have black business owners. Woodlawn, particularly New City and Inglewood, are black communities, but we don't have a lot of business owners that look like us. And so how do we get those folks who want to own business and have good business plans the financial backing that they need to have these businesses? And so the CBA makes sense for the city, because how many big projects have happened in our communities and we have not benefited from it? And so this is a way protection for all of us. And so people are looking at it like this is an attack on the presidential center. No, the first black president deserves a presidential center, but not on the backs of displacing the very folks who made sure he got that seat.
That's right. And the irony is that he was an organizer. And
exactly.
It's sort of like
he sat in on CHA. Exactly. They need to sit in a CHA for the folks in Argyle Gardens that are being mistreated. This is no different. And so people need to set aside that it's the first black president, because I respect our first black president, but at the cost of me being homeless, no, not on my watch. And so if it's the president, I said it last night, President, Beyonce, Queen Elizabeth, anybody who at the power of the pen can protect low-income and working families as doesn't, we all should be challenged.
We have to hold everyone accountable.
Everybody.
Right. And you guys both brought up so many points, whether it's, a history of corruption, sort of folks who are longtime incumbents who have been really just sort of just showing up, taking up a seat, but not speaking and fighting for the community. I mean, there's so much there to address. And the fact that there are young people, as you pointed out, Tara, is that they're saying, no, our voice matters. We're going to step up, and engaging all those folks, going to bring those folks together. I do want to kind of come back to what you were saying, Jeanette, a little bit in regards to the CBA and housing, and really kind of I mean, if you think about how many projects like Lincoln Yards, there's no Lincoln Yards coming. Like, you're fighting to get something like a Lincoln Yards in your community, and sort of like you're just being steamrolled.
Most definitely. I lived in Bronzeville the majority of my life, and all we got was the Harold Washington Cultural Center. I love and respect Harold Washington to the point that if you look at my button, it's what Harold Washington's was, because I have so respect, because he really brought the front of, they always talk about Latino and black folks don't work together. That's not a lie. Harold Washington, when he got in the office, we were not working together. So let's be honest about that conversation. But we also got to look at what happens when investment happens in our community. And so that community that I love, the property taxes went up. I was paying $500. It went to $800. I couldn't afford it. I just couldn't. And so now I'm in Woodlawn. My mother is a retired clerk from Chicago Public Schools. And the same thing is going to happen again. And so folks that we put in office who make $120,000 a year and get a pension for the rest of their life that we pay for won't stand up for me. No, I'll give up that seat. It's time that the people who sit in those seats reflect the people in their community. And for too long, it has not happened. And just because you look like me don't mean you represent me.
Right.
You forget about us when you get into those seats. And so it's our duty. Yeah. It is our duty. Laquan McDonald, there are a bunch of Laquan McDonalds. This is the first time ever that somebody has been called to the carpet. And yes, I'm pissed off like everybody else about 81 months.
Right.
Because no matter how many months he gets and no matter how much money that family gets, it will not bring Laquan back. And so we got a real responsibility to work together, to put our petty differences aside. We can get back to your hair straight and mine is curly another day. Right now, we need to work together to make sure that the 99% get to live in the city that they love.
Right,
absolutely.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to bring up about Tara is Emma Mitt's record. I heard that she votes with Rahm 100% of the time. So that's definitely something important to be looking for when you're researching candidates and aldermanic candidates.
You know what? It's two things you need to check out. People don't want to do their homework. So I started this because I'm a teacher and I know that people have a hard time with homework. I'm helping. So I started by doing this little segment, and I'll go live, and it's called Connecting the Dots. And so what I'm doing is just kind of lifting up issues that come up pretty often, particularly during election cycles, and we just don't understand what does that really mean. What does a TIF mean, and how does that impact me? What does a community benefits agreement mean, and how does that impact me? What does a progressive revenue stream mean, and how does that impact me? And so I'm taking it upon myself to just educate our people and community and the wider community about what that information really does mean. And so one of the things I think everyone should look at is really simple, is who funds the candidate? Who are they getting their money from? Because if they feed you, they lead you, period.
I love that. That's so true.
That's awesome, yeah.
My mom used to say all the time, you better dance with who brought you to the party. So you need to know who's bringing people to the party. The second thing is you need to look at their voting record and see if their voting record reflects your values. And if their voting record does not reflect their values, then you need to hold your elected officials accountable. And the problem I see a lot of times in black communities, and particularly in the 37th Ward, is it just all gets reduced to what I call turkey politics. And it's like, if I get a turkey, then all is forgiven. Right? It's really quite despicable. But
if people are living in poverty, they...
No, I get all of that.
Yeah.
But what we have to do is raise the level of expectation for our community.
We deserve better.
We deserve better than just the turkey at the holiday time.
Right.
Because I need, and I said this parable the other day we need to teach our people to fish. We don't need to give them a fish for a day because they eat for a day. We need to teach our people to fish. What does that mean? That means that we have quality public schools with wraparound services. That means that we invest in training programs that will create a pathway to sustainable work, that they're making a livable wage, that we are putting in community facilities to take care of our young people, that we can use this TIF money rather than use this $95 million for a cop academy for people who literally kill us and get away with it, because this is not a training issue. And I get so vexed when people tell me the police need more training. This doesn't have a damn thing to do with training. This has to do with the perception of black people in this country and white supremacy and privilege. And now it plays out behind a badge. That's what this has to do with. It was a young brother the day before got 84 years for killing Hadia Pendleton.
Right.
84 years. And then you turn around and he actually said he didn't do it.
Yep.
That young brother said, I didn't do that, but he got convicted. 84 years. Everybody knows that Van Dyke killed Laquan. Everybody knows that he shot that man.
It was on video.
It was on video 16 times, and he gets 81 months.
Right.
The system is broken and is set up against black and brown people because ever since we made it to these shores, we've been a commodity, and this country has been trying to figure out how to commodify black folks since they got here. And in my opinion, we just trying to create an environment that makes that acceptable. And so it's not just for black people to be outraged, it's for all people who love humanity to be outraged when we see something like this take place. But the problem with many of the elected officials, and you need to check this out too, many of the elected officials, particularly those ones that vote 100% of the time with Rahm, started off by being appointees.
Right.
So if someone appointed you to something, you didn't earn that seat when you first got it. You didn't fight for that seat. You didn't organize that community. You didn't lay yourself bare to those people and say, look, this is what I'm about. Someone literally picked you up our security because you was in one of their little clubs, like the Democratic Organization Committee, blah, 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 blah. And then they say, okay, yeah, you get to go. Right? And so this happens time and time and time again. And now, or they go get their children. And it happened time and time again. Right. It's like these little fiefdoms. Like they think city council is this thing that they own, and it's not. This is public policy that belongs to public people. Public dollars should be spent on public entities. And I know I'm kind of like spiraling out of control, but that's my passion.
No.
So it's safe to assume that most people who are appointed to a seat are there because they're playing the game.
That's right.
And not because they're an
losing
independent voice.
This is the other thing that vexes me. They play the game, and they don't even play high stakes.
Right.
Emma got a payoff from Burke. I mean, it's safe to say, like, most people took some Burke money. But she was the second highest payout. It was $7,500. Many people get that back in a tax return. So, I mean, they sell out for pennies on the dollar. You have nothing to say. You know what? I know that was an unfavorable decision, but this is what I was able to bring back to the community as a result.
It's no transparency whatsoever.
There's no transparency, and there's no evidence. So you say, you know what? I made a bad decision, but this is what I was able to bring back to my community as a result. And just being able to say you had a Walmart is not enough, because you let a big box company that was the richest company in the world, well, next to Amazon now, come into this poor ward. There's 28% unemployment, 32% underemployed. So we're on a cycle of poverty. We have thousands and thousands of people still receiving welfare, even though they're going to work and working 40 hours a week, and you still got to be on public aid. That's what we're talking about in the 37th ward. And that's what you're saying, oh my God, I brought it and we should be proud. No. So the expectations even for what they have of us, of what we deserve, it makes me so angry, because again, you don't even think we deserve it. You don't think that we deserve quality public wraparound with schools with wraparound services. You don't think it, and you're our representative. You know, like I was coming out yesterday when it was a big snow. Some of my relatives and friends and neighbors and volunteers, we went and helped shovel out seniors in the ward. And one of the things we noticed is that none of the streets were paved, like none of them. And I'm thinking, okay, I get it. If it's like, you know, you got to take care of the expressways and this and this. But it's the next day and we're still snowed in.
They cleaned up by me. North side.
But this is what I'm saying. Yeah. See how there's even disparity in civil services, like what you should expect in your ward.
And I'm an FYI, I live in Rahm's ward. So that's
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And this is great. And thank you. If you just tuning in, you're listening to the Left. I'm Samina Mustafa.
I'm Shauna East.
And we've got Tara Stamps running in the 37th ward and Jeanette Taylor in the 20th ward. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm Samina Mustafa.
I'm Shauna East.
We're producing a show on WCPT Sundays at 1 o'clock.
What should we call it?
How about Smash the Patriarchy?
I like it, but that's a lot of pressure. What about left-leaning ladies?
What about womansplaining?
Yeah, but what about when we have guys on? What about Madigan's worst nightmare?
I think it's enough attention.
I got it. To the left.
I like that. That could work.
Tune in to the left with Samina and Shauna on WCPT 820, Sundays at 1.
And we're back. You're listening to the Left with Samina and Shauna. I'm Shauna East.
And I'm Samina Mustafa.
And now we're going to have our check social media, and you can call in and ask questions of our guests, Jeanette Taylor, who's running in the 20th Ward for Alderman, and Tara Stamps, who's running in the 37th Ward. You can go to our Facebook page, / To the Left Radio, and you can post your question on our live stream.
Yeah. Or you can call us.
Or you can call us at 773-763-9278.
And but this has been incredible. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you.
We want to zoom in. We've been talking about a couple of citywide, some ward-specific issues. But let's start with you, Jeanette. What is something that you're very passionate about and you want to address as alderman?
So in those wards, in those parts of the city that are reflective in the 20th Ward, we talk about police brutality. We talk about violence and crime. And so what I say to neighbors is when jobs go up, violence goes down. Young people don't sell drugs, or people in general don't sell drugs if they're making a living wage. Young people don't sell loose cigarettes when they can have a community center to go to. And so it's our responsibility and duty, instead of funding Navy Pier and the Wintrust Theater, to take our TIF dollars and spend them in our communities. And so I'm a big advocate for CPAC because...
Can you talk a little bit about what that...
Yeah, so CPAC is nothing but an elected school board for the police. It's the simplest way, and it's the way that I explain it to my constituents. I'm one of those folks who say what it is, and I don't have to sugarcoat it, and it's what it is. And so for me, CPAC makes sense because how do I explain to my 3 black boys that when they walk out the door, I'm always fearful of the phone ringing to somebody tell me they were shot by somebody who was supposed to serve and protect them? And I was really bothered that one of the mayoral candidates had the nerve to say that there's no code of silence. Either you're crazy, and let's not forget that it was on your watch that Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times.
I have a feeling I know which candidate you're talking
Exactly.
about.
And so...
Sorry, I just wanted to take a call. We have Sheila, who has a question. Lady B. Shayla!
Hi, everybody.
Your
Hi,
mic
Shauna.
is
Hi,
live.
Samina.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
How are you?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I have a question. I wanted to ask Jeanette a question.
Okay.
Oh, hi, everybody. Hey, Jeanette.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Hi, how are
How's
you?
everybody?
Okay, come on. Time is money, Sheila. Let's get this going.
Jesus Christ. Hey,
We know
Jeanette,
we love Sheila.
I have a question for Jeanette. Hey,
Go-
Jeanette, I heard you were tired.
I am tired. This is not an easy thing to do, just having your life out to the public. 43, I'm going through menopause. I'm door knocking every day. I probably ain't never walked this much in my life, but it's worth asking people for their vote. It's worth every bit of it. And so for me, I ain't too tired to get this justice that we so deserve in my community.
Right.
All
And so,
right.
yeah, I am tired, but I'm going to keep moving.
Lady
You
B.
guys, you're amazing. Tara, you're amazing.
Yeah, we're going to
you.
drop
I
you,
had-
Sheila,
I had-
because it's really noisy.
I
Sorry.
had a chance to be in a space with Tara. She's outstanding.
Oh, thank
you guys
you.
are amazing. So,
Okay,
Thank
Sheila,
you.
we got to go.
bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila, for calling in. I think she was in a noisy space. I think that's
Yeah,
why we were like
sorry,
hearing a little.
everyone.
we were hearing a little bit about. So, why don't we go to Tara now, talking about what is something that you would like to address?
So, many Black communities, Black and Latino communities across the city face the same issues. They pair well, they mimic each other. But one of the things, and so those issues are, again, police brutality. I too support CPAC. Another one of those issues is public schools and public school funding. Another one of those issues is this encroachment upon this space and gentrification, and what will happen to everyday 99 percenters that want to stay in the city that they deserve. Another one of those issues is work, right? So that's what it is. But for me, should I have the opportunity to serve the neighbors of the 37th Ward, of course, I want to make sure that money gets invested into schools, public schools, primarily because as a single mother of 3 and grandmother, and watching my daughter now, you need before and after care. You need places for your children to be in, to be safe, so that you can go off to work and have some confidence that your children are cared for, and you don't have to go get a second job to pay for it. Right. So our young people, our mothers, our families, our caregivers, we need care. We need child care. So that's the issue. And the schools used to be a place where all of that happened.
That's right.
We need community centers. That used to be a place. My sister runs the Marion Stamps Youth Center on the north side. I'm begging her to come to the 37th Ward. But we need places where people can be safe. So to that point, I really want to invest the money in having what I'm calling now hoodie tech hubs. Hoodie hubs where young people can come. We have art collectives. We have a lot of abandoned buildings. A lot of manufacturing used to be in the 37th Ward. I think that would be a great way to repurpose those repurpose those facilities and to make them hubs of arts and tech and free of cost, and also to stem small businesses. A lot of times small businesses can't thrive because they can't take care of the overhead. It's not because they have an inferior product, it's because they can't handle it. So what about creating in these big abandoned spaces that we have, places where they can go, kids can go and feel safe, they can learn, they can grow, small businesses can learn and grow, and then they can come back out into the community, and we can all work to become a stronger fabric to protect our communities.
Yeah, and those are both really important conversations, and again, both of you alluded to this, but so many of the things that affect those, whether it's the school board or the police accountability, we're dealing with mayoral appointees. Mm-hmm. There's very little community input on those issues. So you're dealing with sort of like a top-down.
Yes.
Where you guys are advocating for a bottom-up approach.
So we gotta community organize. And that's where we come from. I've known Tara for 10 years, and we've been in a lot of fights together. And It's not, in these coalitions, we don't always agree. But we got to work together and know that we're the 99%. And what I've been telling people lately is your silence is your violence. It's okay for you to have a quality home. It's okay for your kids to go to quality schools. It's okay for you to have a place where you can go buy quality food that's a walk away. I should have those exact same things in my community. And so us fighting together has to be what we do now. We cannot go back to the days where we can never have a mayor that's as powerful as Daley and Ron was. Never again. We have a thing in Chicago called a weak mayor and a strong council. We're going to have to make sure that strong council protects the people that it's supposed to represent.
Absolutely.
Right.
We really appreciate you guys you ladies coming out all the way to WCPT studios today. Just have to wrap this up, but before we go, we want to make sure that folks who are interested in learning more and getting involved with your campaigns, if you can just briefly say where they could go. Both start with Tara.
Yep, I had to put my readers on because, you can email me at tarastamps37@gmail. You can go on the website, www.tarastamps.com, at TaraStamps37 on Instagram, at TStamps37 on Twitter and Facebook, TaraStamps37, or you can just simply keep coming on this Facebook page I've always had. So those are all the ways in which you can we got a new number, 312-826-0526. 312-826-0526, and you can call me.
And definitely feel free to share these links on our live stream when people watch it throughout the week. They can click right and reach you right away. And then Jeanette.
So mine is Taylor for 20th Ward .org. I'm on Facebook, Jeanette B. Taylor for 20th Ward. My office is on 6636 South Cottage Grove. My cell number is 773-620-9055. You need to have contact with the person that's supposed to represent you.
That's
I'm
right.
not sitting in an office. So you feel, and my team gets mad at me for giving out my personal cell number, but we don't see this as relationship building, and we don't see this as we're part of one. And so if you can pick up the phone and call me on my cell phone, that means we're building a relationship to change what needs to happen in our community. And we can only do that if we have access to each other.
And a relationship.
Yep.
Right.
This is relationship building.
And this is really putting the service back in public service.
That's right.
It's like you're actually available. You're making yourselves available. And thank you both for being here. It's been terrific having
And I
you
just
here.
wanted to say sorry to those who are on the line who wanted to talk to Tara and Jeanette, but we ran out of time again because the time goes so fast.
Yeah.
We just want to say our thank yous to Ms. Lady B and Nico in the other studio helping us out, to Tara Stamps,
Thank
to
you.
Jeanette Taylor. You guys are awesome. I want to say hello and thank you to all of the activists from #NoCopAcademy who rocked last night.
Yeah.
Thank you to Jackrabbit and all of those who are at home amplifying our show via social media using the hashtag to the left. That's TO the left.
Right. So, and we have an exciting show. We've only got about a minute or two left, but we have a really exciting show next week. And Sheila
From Chicago.
Garland Orlanaran of National Nurses United is going to be back in studio. We're going to be talking about Medicare for All, and we're also going to have a call in from Matt Brunig.
Matt Brunning of the People's Policy Project, who does a lot of the white papers, writes the policy write-ups to prove, like Bernie Sanders,
The financial
and other
case, really.
progressive
Right.
policy to prove the backing that it saves money or whatever, all that. So he's going to be on to talk about Medicare for All and how it will save us money.
Absolutely, and
So
which is really,
definitely tune in.
yeah, and then next month we've got. God, I can't believe it's already January 20th. We're going to be doing more coverage of the municipal elections. I think the first week of February we've got the folks from the 40th Ward.
Yes, so far we have Ugo Okier, Maggie O'Keefe, and Andre Vasquez. I'm not sure 100% if Diane DeLayden will be on, but she was invited, so stay tuned. That's going to be a juicy one, I think.
Yeah.
A little spicy.
Yeah, but I mean, this is an exciting time. We've got so many great candidates, people who are part of the community, wanting to represent the community and amplify those voices.
Absolutely.
That's what's really just hearing both of you. It's really inspiring, and really, I thank you. Thank you for putting yourselves out there.
Thank you all for having us. Thank you for having us.
And if you want this show to stay on the air, you guys, you need to support us, seriously.
Patreon.com/To the Left Radio. Go to the Hideout. Link.
We're having a fundraiser, which we desperately need money. Please send us your money. Send $40 per ticket for our fundraiser on March 16th to secretgeeksociety@yahoo.com via PayPal. Thank you.
And we will be back next week, guys. You can still tweet at us or do all the things at To the Left Radio. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.